Ladies, it is 2019 and we need to leave the wigs in 2018. Not necessarily wigs in general, but wigs that look like some of the pictures that I'm about to show you on the screen. So this means no more bulky lace fronts, no more closures sliding all the way back to 1996. We want our hair to look natural. We wear wigs as a protection style for our hair, and the best thing is to make it look good. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys how to slay your wig. So the first thing you're going to need is a spandex dome style wig cap. This wig cap is perfect for making wigs because it's stretchy, it's durable, and it fits to many different size heads. I think it's better than the mesh one because with spandex it's a lot more stretchy and you definitely get a little bit more wear out of it. The next thing you're going to need is some needle and thread. This is obviously what we're going to use to sew the hair onto the wig cap. Definitely invest in some curved needles because it's just easier when sewing. Next, you're going to need scissors because we're going to be cutting the lace as well as cutting the threads in between our sewing. And then you're going to need a mannequin head of some sort. Definitely get the ones that are canvas and not styrofoam because these ones mimic a human head a lot better than the styrofoam. Next, you're going to need some BW2 powder. This is going to help us when we bleach the knots on our closure and or frontal, and it's going to give us a natural look when we go to part our closure or frontal. And then to mix in with that, you're definitely going to need the Kaleido Colors in blue. This is a toning powder. This is going to make sure that our hair doesn't come out too yellow. It just tones it down to a nice brown color that matches our dark skin. And then to mix in with that, you're going to need some 30 volume developer. This is just going to help with the bleaching concoction and put everything together when it's time for us to color our closure. And then, of course, you're going to need hair. So this hair is from Westkiss Hair. I definitely love Westkiss. I've worked with them before in the past, and I love their hair. And they're going to be the ones sponsoring this video. So they sent me 4 bundles in a closure. So this is the closure. As you can see, it's not bleached. If it was bleached, you would see that the lace color would mimic a little bit more of African-American skin tone and be like brown. You can see through this transparent lace, and you can see that the knots are black. So the knots is what they tie the hair onto the closure with. So it basically means just tying the hair onto the closure and it's black knotted, and then we're going to bleach it so that it's brown and it matches our scalp color a lot better. Here are the bundles. They sent me 4 bundles with the longest being 28 inches. And as you can see, the bundles are pretty thick. This is their body wave texture. I already ran through it and it's going to look bomb. So let's get started. First thing you're going to need to do is pin down your wig cap onto your canvas head. Make sure that if you're going for a middle part, you line it up with the linings on the canvas. Next, we're going to be bleaching our closure. That is always the first step. So I just have like this tin foil little container that I use to make cornbread. And I'm going to be opening up my BW2 powder as well as my toner powder. And we're going to be putting this in. So I purposely bought the single packets. With just buying one, you can use it for just one use. But you don't actually need all of it. So you're going to pour in your 30 volume developer. 30 volume is going to lift at a speed that is able to be detected, so it's not going to be too fast and it's not going to be too slow. When you mix it together, you want your consistency to be thick. This is key. A lot of times I see girls get consistencies that are so liquidy and so runny. That is so messy. It makes things a lot harder with the process. You want it to be thick so that you can control it. It doesn't seep through. It doesn't over bleach your closure. It doesn't give you any spots in your closure. You want it to be thick so that you can just rub it on like a paste. So I put down my closure on my mannequin head and I just pinned it down and I'm just putting on the bleach concoction. And as you can see, I'm using the back of a plastic spoon. A knife would have been so much easier, but I didn't have one. And you're just going to put it on there and make sure it covers the entire closure. Be sure to use a light hand so that it doesn't seep through. Next, we're going to be doing a timer. So I set my timer for 20 minutes. You can kind of peek through your closure just to see if it's gotten to the color that you want. 20 minutes is probably the maximum with 30 volume developer. Now, I'm using a neutralizing shampoo and conditioner because this is going to make sure that the processing of the bleach and the closure stops because you don't want it to keep bleaching and keep processing after the fact. So I use that and I rinse it out. As you can see, when the color turns pink, that means there's a chemical being used. And when you wash it out, this is the result that I got. As you can see, I kind of over bleached the front because it did seep through because I forgot what I was doing. But you can see that the lace closure is a lot more mimicking the color of a scalp. So those knots are definitely no longer black or transparent. They're like a brown or like a honey color, and it's just going to melt on our forehead of our dark skin and in our scalp. It just makes it look a lot more natural. So when it comes to sewing, I like to hold off on the closure and start with the bundles. As you can see, we're starting from the side. So we're going to actually start sewing from the side area of the hair and not the back nape. And this is because when you have hair that is long, you want it to be full all over. You don't want your length to just be in the nape of your hair because it's going to look weird when your hair is all full out. So that just means when you start from the side, you get the length going all over your head and not just the back. And it's not going to make your bundles look straggly. So you kind of put it to where your ears are. You don't want it to be too far up. If you're working with longer hair, don't put it so far up because you definitely still want to have a lot more volume in the back of your longest length. So to start the process, I'm going to be sticking the needle into the wefts of the hair. The wefts are the top part of the bundle. And as you can see, my wefts are doubled. This is how the bundle comes. It comes doubled, and then you can unravel it so that it's singled. For your first 2 bundles, you want to keep it doubled. That way you get the most volume in the back of your hair. Because a lot of times bundles do come very thin if they're longer length. So I put the needle through the weft, and then I put it through the wig cap, and then that's when I start to sew. So as you can see, I'm putting it through just the top layer of my spandex dome style cap, and then I put it through my weft, and then I keep sewing. I always sew through my wefts. I've been sewing through my wefts since I was making wigs years ago. Some people don't like to do that and say that increases shedding, but I don't think it increases shedding. I think honestly it makes it a lot more sturdy, and if you were to be making a wig with a sewing machine, you would have to sew through your wefts anyway, and it doesn't hurt to do so. It actually makes it a lot more solid if you ask me. When you get to the end of where you are folding it over, you definitely want to fold it backwards, putting that needle through the weft, and then just going the other direction. And then you're just going to do this back and forth all over your wig, going from side to side. It's best that you do fold it, that way it does minimize shedding. But when you get more towards the top of your hair, you don't want it to be bumpy, so I'm actually going to start cutting the wefts. Next is actually applying the lace closure. So I'm going for a middle part, and I'm using T-pins, which I forgot to mention to have at the beginning, and I'm just going to be pinning it down on the head. You just want to make sure that everything is laying completely flat all around your wig. That way you can go ahead and sew on the closure. I do this after I've sewed on 2 bundles, and then I put on the closure and then do the remaining. You don't want to do your closure last because you want to make sure you have enough space. That way your closure can sit perfectly. If you sew all your bundles on and then try to add the closure, you may not have gauged enough space, and then your closure may overlap or just not sit flat on the top of the head. So I definitely do this by sewing down one side, doing the back, and then the other side. I then continue to just sew the rest of the hair onto the wig until I have finished. So this is what the wig looks like when I'm done, and I'm just going in with parting, and again I'm going for a middle part look, and I haven't washed the hair in this clip yet. It's just freshly sewed on, nothing too fancy just yet. We're just starting the styling process of the wig, and we're just going to be preparing it so that it looks a lot more like a wig. So the next step is actually just working with the closure. The closure is actually very important because it's going to look the most natural. So I like to use some mousse just to hold everything down and to set it in place, and making sure that my part is going to sit exactly where I want. Now you guys can see in the front left corner there is a little bit of brown. That's just from me over bleaching it a bit. I did go back and cover that with just my Adore black hair dye after I did this part so that it matches with the rest of the hair. So I'm taking some tweezers, and we're going to be working with the baby hairs. The baby hairs are so optional. You don't have to do baby hairs. I know not everybody likes them, but because I feel like they are a trend to have baby hairs on your wig, I'm going to show you guys how to do it anyway, and so that your hair can be a lot more natural. So definitely use the mousse to set your baby hairs apart from the front of your wig, and then go ahead and take your tweezers and start to pluck. So I pluck the front area because nobody's hair is bulky right at the top. Your hair kind of flows into your hairline, so you don't want it to be too much. I also go ahead and tweeze my middle part. So I'm taking scissors and I'm actually just cutting my baby hairs down. Be sure to not use that much baby hairs, okay? Make sure that you're not cutting it too much because it might end up being too thick, and you don't want your baby hairs to look too thick. You want it to be wispy. You want it to be natural. You don't want it to be a lot because nobody's baby hairs is really that thick. So I'm using my 24-hour Edge Tamer by Ebin. This is the only one that I use, and I use it on my wigs too, as well as my natural hair. And we're just going to be styling those baby hairs. So again, baby hairs are completely optional. You can do them however you want. Nobody should be judged on how they do their baby hairs, but I'm just going to be doing some little swoops, and you kind of want to swoop it into your hair just in case the baby hairs are a little bit too long. You can swoop them right into the front part of your hair, and I complete that on the other side as well. So I take the Got To Be Glued freeze spray, and this is just going to hold down that front area. That way it stays in place and it's always going to look like that on my wig. So I just spray it just a little bit, the parted area as well as the baby hairs. That way it can start to settle, and you can go over it with a blow dryer to speed up the process, or you could just let it dry on its own. So I washed the wig in this clip, and I just washed the hair part. I definitely kept the baby hairs in that front area dry and free of water, but I washed the rest of the hair, and we're gonna do styling. So I'm using my Remington curling iron, and this is what I got from Ollie's. It was actually only $8. Remington is a very inexpensive brand. And just a quick tip, sometimes I use my heat and I just kind of go over my part and my baby hairs area. That way it just lays flat. That way I can make sure that it's not gonna bump up when I go to put it on. So I'm just giving it like some wand curls in a way. I'm just giving it like big wand curls all around because I want the body wave hair that is so effortless and you can just kind of swing it any way. So I kind of just do this all around the head. This is a bigger barrel. I'm not sure what inch, but it is a bigger one. So I would say probably like 1-inch barrel if you're looking to get this style. And I just do it all around the head, making sure that the hair just looks so effortless with the curls. I love this style. And then just to hold it all in place, again, with the Got To Be Glued spray, you don't want too much. I'm doing it from a far distance because you don't want your hair to be sticky. Just spray it to hold in the curls. So then I'm cutting off the lace, and I'm just using the baby hairs as a guideline, but I'm holding them up when I do cut. That way you don't cut off your baby hairs. That's why I like them to dry so that they stay in that position. That way when I cut off the lace, it just goes back to the position that I put it. So using a wide tooth comb, I'm just going to just kind of brush out the curls a little bit and just give it like a nice little natural wave. That way it doesn't look too curled up. I want it to be nice and natural. So for adherence, we're going to be using an elastic band method. So you can see my braids that have been in for months looking bad crazy. Look, this is worse than Meek Mill. Meek Mill actually doing better than me. And we're going to be sewing this onto our wig. This is what I use to keep my wigs on. I actually don't use combs or anything. I can install combs, but I usually don't because I don't like the way that they feel. But I'm using elastic and I sew that onto the inside part of my wig. I kind of use my thumb as a guideline, and the thumb is just going to see how far away from the front of my wig. And I'm just sewing that onto the elastic part of the inside of the wig. So it's giving me some double security. Don't sew it right next to the closure because then it's going to be bulky right there. Give it a little bit of space, like a thumb's length worth of space. That way it's not going to be all up on your forehead when you go to put on your wig. And then I'm just doing my edges so that we can go ahead and apply the wig. So I use the Ebon gel again, as well as my Got To Be Glue spray. And I would do the wig cap method, but I just never done it. I feel like that's more long-term, and I like to just take my wigs off at night, so I don't ever do that. But then here is me placing the wig on. As you can see, the brown color of the knots that we did bleach definitely melts right into my skin. And this is pre-styling again. So this is just what the wig looks like. As you can see, it looks natural in the front. And then here is the final product of what the wig looks like. It looks so natural, so popping. I love it. This is probably the best wig that I've ever made. This is how I make all my wigs. I definitely love this. I want to say shout out to YouTube because I'm not a hairstylist. I'm not a professional. I learned everything I know from YouTube. So I just want to show you guys how I do my wigs just in case you're looking to do yours. It actually is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Definitely keep trying if you're trying to make your own wig. Sometimes going to these expensive salons is really not worth it because YouTube is a thing and it exists. Sometimes you can really just learn how to do it on the internet. And this is how I've made my wigs. And I've come a long way from making some crazy wigs up until now. So the purpose of this video was just to show you guys a good way to construct your wigs. I know you can wear your hair any way that you want to. I know that women should not be chastised for the way how they style their hair. But I feel like personally, when you wear a wig or a weave, the main intent is to make it look as natural as possible. I know we use wigs and weaves to cover our natural hair for protection and protection only, regardless of what people think. I know we get a lot of chastisement as Black women or just women of color for how we wear our hair, whether we protect our hair because we hate it and we're practicing self-hate, or if it's really to protect our hair. And I feel like when you protect your hair and you apply your wig and construct your wigs and weaves correctly, it actually serves a purpose. When you just slap a wig on and it just doesn't look natural, or you're putting on all these different chemicals like glues and pulling your hair left and right, It defeats the purpose of a good wig protective style. So I know that Meek Mill then told us to leave the wigs in 2018, and we faced that ridicule as women of color of how we wear our hair. But ladies, we are bringing the good wigs into 2019. We will leave the ugly little crazy looking wigs in 2018, and we're going to level up our hairstyles. So that is it for this video. Definitely give me some comments and some feedbacks in the comment section down below. Definitely check out Westkiss Hair. Their information will be in the description box down below. Let me know what you think of this process. Do you have any tips for me, or if you have any questions, again, leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.